in donation generating on doing the schools, getting to 100,000. And then let's isolate the second move, which is 500 to 50,000 on the healthcare side. And let's use the scale bond to fund that. And now what you can do is basically, because you're already there, when you go to the government and you say, we'd like you to be a payer for 20% of that. We're going from 500 to 50,000. We're already in every village we're going to. There's not a single new village that we're adding. We're physically in the village that we're going to with the new service. It's absolutely something that the Indian government should be partially funding, which you've avoided in the past. But now you've got an argument to go to them and say, we didn't ask you for a penny for the schools. We gave that to you for free, from the government's perspective. We'd like you to kick in 20% for this next round. And we can predict absolutely accurately that if we have some reasonable portion of that money front-end loaded, then we have the ability to do it right. We have the ability to have the right people doing the right things in the right time frames, properly sequenced at scale. So just like Akshaya Patra had the ability to create a machine that produces 60,000 chapatis an hour, you'll have the money to create the machines, in quotes, to do the scale up of the healthcare from 500 to 50,000 with your partners who are already in this room. So there'll be some others. That's something where you've got such predictability and it's such a dramatic need that the government should be willing to de-risk getting their 20%, just like they've done on the midday meal program. The problem is that nobody's been able to show them how to do healthcare with the predictable results that Akshaya Patra has shown them how to do midday meals. If you can show them that, they'll join. But then you're also saying, but we have a partnership with General Electric, and we have a partnership with Tata, and we have a partnership with several other organizations that are going to pick up 30% of that, or 40% of that. And we've been able to identify a new set of healthcare donors that we don't normally talk to about schools. They'll pick up another 20, 25% of it. And then we have a set of people who just want to buy scale. They would never donate to a healthcare operation. It's not what they care about. What they want to do is they want to buy scale. They want to buy the best scale that's available. And it turns out we have one of the best scale purchases that's available. So if you want to buy scale, practice healthcare is irrelevant. That's maybe 10, 15% of it. So that's how we assemble the payers to pay off the investors. And you get the investment front end loaded because you say to the payers, you don't have to pay till I deliver the results. If you said to the payers, we want the money now, they say, I can only give you 10% of it now. Because they actually don't have the money. You know, they'll get it over time as you deliver over time, but for you to scale properly, you need more than 10% of it on the front end. So that's what the investors do, is they give you the ability to front end load.
I think scale, two things I want to talk. When you talk about scale, it doesn't mean that from 100 villages, you go to 500 villages alone is scale. Yeah. Correct me if you
agree
wrong.
with you. Yeah.
Instead of one you give education, you give 12 things or 14 things. Even that is a scale.
Yeah. I agree with
both.
So we can associate with you. You can associate with us. Deal done. Okay. Next.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah. Next one, most important. See, I was just talking to Shiba and they said we are really non-spenders. As I said, $0.25 per annum per person in the population is a very small amount. So we don't know how to spend. Let's again take this man, okay? He has got a model. He just whispered to me, okay? He has got a model. It's a social enterprise model, highly paid. He can give returns of 25%, just for example, 25% return per annum. But he can't scale. But I can scale. I don't need money. I can scale. He needs money, but he can give returns. Imagine that both of us join together, okay, and make a single entity. So now I give scale for which I give spend. See, I shouldn't be thinking that I got smaller money and no. My aim here is only to do good work. Just for scale. So I gave actual reason for him to get funding, but he gives me money for, so we can do that.
Yes.
I think if you can have 4 or 5 people like that, you can.
Malik, you said the same thing the first time we met. You said, we have the ability to scale people, we want a piece of the action. If you hear Shivan present, when I had that experience at the Development Dialogue in Uber, I was sitting in the back of the room and I said, he didn't call himself a non-spender, but he essentially said the same thing. And I sat back there and I thought, that's really brilliant. I mean, here's the guy with, as you say, no money. But as a social enterprise, what he's done is he's basically gone through all the work and the thinking and the partnering and the engagement and the testing to be able to bring forward a solution which can scale with very little money. And it's a nonprofit solution. It's not designed to be for profit. Now, what happens if you want to flip the other direction? Well, this is what happened with Health Point International. They went into the Punjab, they brought this reverse osmosis water system, they dropped it in 3 or 4 demonstration sites. They said there's a health clinic for each 3 water points. They're charging for the health clinic services. They're intending to be a for-profit. The state government comes to them and says, oh, we love these water points. Can you put 100 of them in before the next election? That was actually what they said. And Health Point said, we can do that. And they deployed the 100 water points before the next election, and the state government paid paid all the CapEx, which ended up being 1/3 of the total cost. So they built the building in which the system sat, the government land, gave the long-term leases, boom, 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 boom.
The government created the scale.
Yeah, the government, yeah.
Paid for the scaling.
That's the good news. You wanna know what the bad news is? They never got the approvals and the insurance for the health clinics.
After the election.
So they put in 100 water points with this brilliant model that was gonna be a for-profit model, charging very low prices for services that depended on the fact that you made profit because everybody had to come and get their water every day. And so you didn't have the outreach problem, you didn't have the utilization problem, you didn't have a lot of the negative appearance problems of people going to a health clinic only. But they never de-risked getting the health clinics. So they didn't have the critical mass to go back to the government and say, please help us de-risk setting up the health clinics. And the government decided they were perfectly happy just getting the water points, and that's where it is today. So it's that kind of outcome where there may be a point at which there's a set of services available that sit between the government hospitals and the triage centers that are charged for. I mean, that's a perfectly reasonable scenario. GE would be highly interested in being part of creating that money-making opportunity that will at some point happen, but it can't happen until you demonstrate the initial deployment of the triage centers that serve the 50,000 villages, because that's step 1 to getting to step 2.
Well, I think that microeconomics that sits in that kind of idea is what keeps the sustainability behind it.
Exactly.
So I think it's not wrong, if you will, to think about a very microeconomic model in these situations, because especially healthcare, which is what I'm most familiar with, but if you go across the world, it's such a shame. There's so many things that have tried to happen, but they sit idle today because once the money goes away, all that equipment, all those people, everything stops. Versus, if you look at Grameen Foundation, I think they did a great job with a microeconomic healthcare system that, did a great job until the government of Bangladesh didn't like it because it kind of embarrassed them, so they found a way to shut it down. But I think there's a lot of these in Indonesia. They're doing this as well. Where people are willing to pay 9 rupees. I mean, these are very small amounts of money, but they actually work if you get the models set up properly, and they sustain themselves. That virtuous cycle idea is there, and I think that's.
Well, frankly speaking, we have never thought of on these lines. Probably today's meeting will be one step making us to think about it. If I tell you frankly, the areas where we work, you may not find even water to drink.
Yeah. That's
So, and if you see, there's no farming happening there where we work, you will find small children without clothes.
Yeah.
And you may find patients with scabies on all their hands. So these are the areas we work in. So if asking them to pay for the services we render, that becomes something inhuman for us also. So anyway, I mean, this is good that I would raise this point.
Sorry for
Probably.
interrupting, but I'll tell you, in every house, they'll be paying for a cell phone. They'll have a cell phone
See,
and
there
they'll
may
be
not
paying
be
for it.
electricity, they will be paying even for the charging of phone. What I'm trying to say is, see, it is the philosophy with which we work.
Priority, their priority.
Priority,
Yeah,
exactly. So let's, anyway, I mean, thanks a lot for inviting us here. It gave us, inputs to think on these lines. Probably we may come with some other revenue generating models. Thank you very much.
Coming to the meditation point you originally started with, you have a couple of unusual people here. I meditated for 10 minutes today in the morning. She taught Vipassana meditation to Lancaster University British students, and her husband has a blog called The Spiritual Policeman.
I'll tell you about and I'm impressed about meditation because it's so difficult to get people to do yoga and meditation, and a man could make it possible and play 5,000 crore worth.
You're the right track, but making every non-profit
Not
submission a
5,000
microeconomic
crore
model.
is business, and he's giving a run for
I mean,
multinational.
part of the virtual cycle creation is to enable you to focus on what you're really capable of. And to leverage the hell out of that. And not to distract yourselves with worrying about that next stage. There will be people who are really good at that, what needs to happen there. And if you sit down and say, okay, we want to keep doing what we're doing, but we see that we're creating potential demand for services that aren't being fulfilled by the government hospitals and aren't being fulfilled by the, and then you go back to Population Foundation, and Population Foundation says, well, that's great. We've also got this wonderful TV program that maybe in your villages, it's hard for everybody who needs to see it to get access to it. So is there a way for the schools to organize access to the programming, which helps you improve your ability to work with the women and the girls and avoid child marriage if it's a problem and whatever else the issues might be? All of that happens while Population Foundation is a nonprofit, you're a nonprofit. Those things are funded in other ways to get to scale with respect to those ideas. But Malik's still saying, we want a piece of the action when we create something or when we help somebody who's created something to scale. So you've got people in your organization who are thinking about that, which you should be. You don't have to do that. Malik can do that. And that gets taken care of over time in an appropriate set of ways. It doesn't compromise you, and it enables you to take something. I mean, if you go to any conference in the global north on anything in these areas, you will find at that conference, and this wasn't happening 3 years ago. So in 3 years, we've gone from very few sessions on this issue to every conference has a session on this issue. And at these conferences, the moderator of the panel stands up and says, in one way or another, the beginning bullet of this meeting, scale is the holy grail. And that's essentially what they say. And they say it over and over and over in meeting after meeting and conference after conference. And then there's 3 people sitting in the seats next to it. And they turn to those 3 people and they say, now tell us about how you're growing in the country where you work. And those people give a little presentation on how they're growing in the country and they work at a level which you wouldn't even consider, you'd consider it a test. Right? But they consider it scaling from where they started. But actually there's nobody on the panel that actually knows anything about scaling. But they do recognize that it's the Holy Grail, and so, that happened. I'm in 2 or 3 conferences a month, so I sit in those sessions again.
Even near neighbor is
and again.
sustainability.
Right.
Scaling and sustainability. Yeah.
Brothers forever.
India, China, the population itself, when China is out, India is up here. You can think New Zealand, when you talk about New Zealand is 4 times of Bangalore, you know, if you look at the total population, 40 million, and Australia, less than Karnataka, your, Maharashtra is what, 12, I think 12 or 13 crore population, right?
So somebody told it very interestingly that India adds 1 Australia to its population every year.
Gives birth to an Australia every year.
So we're coming to lunchtime, and there's a couple of things I'd like to ask if there's an idea on. So one of the things that I think would help us get to the stage 2 visualization quickly as opposed to slowly would be if we could get some set of players to consolidate all of the places where all of the folks are working. What we need is a map. And when I look at Eckel and I see they have 10,885 villages in Uttar Pradesh, I kind of need a little bit more detail on that if I'm also working in Uttar Pradesh. So I don't know how to get that done reasonably quickly, but if anybody had an idea on how we could resource that.
So is there 2 maps? There's one map which is geographical, right? There's another map which is kind of service or
Capability, yeah.
activities,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and we need both. Yeah. So anybody who's got any thoughts on that?
I'm just wondering, is something like, does somehow some of that exist already in, if you think about the forums which are taking place in India, there's a lot of data that's been collected and understood. I don't know, does anyone have that?
Now, what exactly,
Already
what kind of parameters are, what kind of data are you looking for?
I think we need the 2 vectors, right?
yeah.
We need where is it happening and what is happening.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I mean, I would envision that I can drill down to, you know, a village, and it basically says that there's a Eckel single teacher school here, and they do or don't have access to a triage center. I might drill down and find out that Operation Asha is working in that village or not, or there's no, you know, actually it's 2-sided, because there's a side of what we're offering and there's a side of what what's needed.
Okay.
Yeah. So no tuberculosis treatment in this particular area would be a really useful thing to identify. So we'd have a set of data that we want, but I'm really more thinking about just where are we and what are we doing in the places where we are as a starter, and then you could layer on the second thing after you have that.
So that I can send about our organ in 2 weeks' time. We
Yeah.
have already, yeah.
Okay.
We have it, because that's part of our regular process.
So would you guys be willing to provide data to Rishi that he could put into his system?
Where villages,
Yeah.
health activities.
A lot of stuff will be there on our website.
Yeah.
It should be there. All districts, wherever we work, it's already there on the website.
Really? All 53,000 villages are listed at your website?
No.
Not all,
Must be.
3,000 villages, it's not most of the.
Most of
most
Our presence is there on the
Okay.
map. It is already.
Macro
mapped.
view is there,
Yeah.
not the.
Okay. No, I've seen the map. I've seen the map, but it says Uttar Pradesh 10,885.
Yeah, so then we can get into detail, if somebody is interested in Andhra Pradesh, then that specific data
Yeah,
can be
specific
shared.
data can be culled out.
Because our teams will be having, like our Andhra Pradesh team will be having complete
But to
detail
tell
data
you
up
very
to the village.
precisely the data
I'll
which
tell
are
you what kind of
available
data I
at
can
Google.
give.
Yeah.
Each village wise, including name of the person I can give, because we have that kind of data. Which village, which taluka it belongs to, which district and which state, you know, or say one Uttar Pradesh.
Of your volunteers?
Yes, including, you know, I need not give you names, 2, 3, 1, or how many people are.
That data probably we
Yeah,
should
you
also
should
be
be
having.
having it. Yeah, you should be having that.
I mean, when I asked Ranjani, when I met with her, and it turns out that Eccles had
Which
fundraisers,
identifies
lives about 20
what
minutes
is
from
not happening.
in Boston. So when I
Or
met with
needed.
her and Niraj, I asked them that question, and they couldn't answer that for me. They didn't say.
Then.
Yeah.
Neeraj Chandra.
Yeah, they couldn't tell me they couldn't tell me where the 9 triage centers were, for example. You know, they said you guys would know that. But to me, it's really useful to know where the 9 triage centers are, because I think whatever we're gonna do with you and with you, we should test as quickly as possible in the triage centers that are already there. Because that gives us a rapid set of learnings that are, really are kind of free. I mean, not totally free, but you're already there, you already have the center, you already know what you're currently doing. And you can see whether adding these set of services or these set of services is helpful, makes you more efficient, enables you to support more villages. Get that information on the table fairly quickly.
Can we have from like Tikala Gyan Karyalaya to Kolkata? Kolkata, Gyan Karyalaya.
But David, I suggest like if each scale can prepare a standard format first, and send it over, then all of us can punch in our data there.
Okay, so.
Then it becomes very easy to.
So Dr.
really
Donnelly and I
map
will work on
Yeah.
putting that together, and then we'll send it to you and see if you can give us an initial data.
Yes.
And in addition, in case you can just, because we work with the consultative process within our organization. So what I suggest is before associating with probably Rescale, would like what exactly Rescale is looking from us. So that we can have, appropriate approvals, in-house approvals, and share all whatever is required. Once those approvals are in place, then absolutely we are free to work.
I thought minutes of the meeting of today's should happen. I think that's important for me, everybody. I think
Yeah.
it's important. So today's, I think that will be.
So even, that may become very, very formal for him to prepare probably. So that's not.
Well,
But at least, what is expected,
Yeah.
what is expected out of all us as NGOs.
So I've got the 4-pager, I've got an article that I wrote about social enterprise in the SDGs.
Yeah, I read that.
Which that's a good consolidation of what I said. I do need to get a deck done with the matrix and other stuff, and I am working on that, but that'll probably be 6 weeks or so or something. But I'm about to write another article that will represent kind of a quick summary of a lot of the stuff that was said there. So if you put those 3 things together as the minutes of what I said, then the question is, what action items do we come up from each of you guys? And my starting point was the question about the mapping, but Terry's comment about the capabilities is also, that to me is the first set of work that I really need you guys to do kind of yourselves. I'm glad to sit on any call you set up, I'm glad to provide access to anything you need from my end, but the truth of the matter is, what we need to be able to do, imagine 3 things, okay? The presentation opens with a traditional story about a beneficiary and how their life was changed by a set of services that's been provided by this group. Now, this story is aggregated from your respective stories and consolidated into a single story. But the difference between this story and what you would get from Save the Children is that you can click on any of the services and get the number of total people that received those services from the organizations in the past year.
It's kind of the last mile.
Yeah.
component of this.
Yeah, so I can click on the fact that this daughter is going to the single teacher schools in a village, and I'm seeing what the impact is it's having on her, but if I click on her, I see that there's 317,000 kids, of which 158,000 are girls, that are in single teacher schools across India. So I get the story, the personal story, but I see the 40,000 Jaipur artisans when I click on a family where Jaipur's working, and I can see the scale impact of that story happening. So that's the first incarnation of the scale presentation. Then the second incarnation is a very simple kind of, here's the 6 organizations in this portfolio, 7, whatever the number ends up being. There's going to be 4 more people in a meeting in Mumbai talking about this, but they're not as healthcare oriented as you guys are. This is Mandeshi Bank and Sagar Mitra, who you may not know about, but you'll learn about in the future. Smaller organization, but wonderful model. and Ekurtik, if you know Krishna Mishra. So they're more agricultural oriented, and we have several enterprises globally in the ag area that will also potentially be working on this. But imagine the healthcare group has, in essence, created 3 slides that basically show the scale up of the actual activities as they're going to happen over the 5-year time period. So what we want, I mean, the ideal scenario would be that here's the 4 organizations. So there's
Be the animator and
so here's org 1, here's org 2, and you can think about this in the virtuous cycle model. Here's org 3, and here.
Who are not very privileged, and what we do there is we go as a team and we conduct projects wherein we don't lecture them. What we do is we try to involve drama, dance, music, and engage them in the project so that they can feel energized, and then they can also explore the talents that they have, and then we call them to our campus and give them a platform to showcase those talents. So this is what, you know, we have been doing offhand along with the job. Like, I'm working as a faculty and they are in my team. So we basically learned a lot in today's conversation, as you were talking about building an innovative product and the impact will follow. We would like to know more from the August gathering, that how can we take this ahead? We are a very nascent organization in this. I mean, just 2 years, the discussions were at a very high level for sure, and it was a big learning. But how can we really take it on, you know? How can we connect with the like-minded people? And probably if we want to go in a slum area and educate children, not in a formal way, in a creative way, how can we do that? And the second pointer which I would like to share is that this was more on scaling up and sustainability. So I think if young people could be a party to this, we can really take it on and, you know, make it sustainable in the real terms. So if tomorrow, if they don't have to look for a job and they can actually, you know, take this as a career, or they have an interest in it. So why can't, you know, we build a model on this and take it on? Because along with the job, it is difficult to go and, you know, share what we do. We come from an education background. That's why we chose this, that we can go and teach people and, you know, just build confidence in the children and the youth.
I think we can continue to share our thoughts over the lunch. It will get cold. There is a social media expert on the panel. David is also on our international expert panel. On behalf of Dr. Madhukar, our Secretary General, who is present here, and Dr. Sushi, who is the convener of Center for CSR, which is one of the co-hosts of the event. Thanks a lot, David, for the very, very enlightening discussion which we had today, and looking for many, many more in the future. And David has become a frequent traveler to India, so we can expect more.
Well, Terry moved here, so.
That may happen eventually.
On behalf of everyone. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, that is so nice. And it's lighter than the plaque.
We have this brochures of Center for CSR and Educom Foundation
Knowledge Chapter
plus Knowledge
on
Company.
Health. It's a like CSR conference, the first CSR conference which was held in last October. That was the first event of Center for CSR and Sustainable Development from Briggs Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This knowledge work has been created by Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs as a partner. So this is going to be as a recommendation to the Government of India. So this, there are 4 infant compendium which are supposed to be created by ICA. This is one of them.
So
you
this
can
knowledge,
there are only some copies left, so please
And,
those who have
thanks to Dr. Amit and Dr. Sushi for hosting us and setting us up.
so those who are interested,